You got McMullen and McDonald here with you on Birds 365. Thank Mikey Mitz for jumping into the mix. And yeah, I asked Mikey to come on the show before we ever knew that Jalen Hurts could sign his contract extension. Timing kind of worked out. And I, after the news came out, I said, John, can you see if you can get Brad Spielberger on here, get our favorite cap guy on to discuss the cap ramifications? John was able to get Brad to commit and join us, and he should do just that in about 20 some odd minutes. All right, John, I do want to clarify one thing here, buddy, because you did call me on the carpet and say I went off the rails and misquoted you about Budda Baker, that you didn't say you thought the Eagles would do that. You said that you would do that. Am I misquoting you now? I do want to get you on the record straight. Is John not hearing me?
No, I got you.
Okay. Are you saying that you think the Eagles should be negotiating and or making a play for Budda Baker? Or did you say, and this is what I thought you said, you thought that there was a chance the Eagles would do that? Were you talking about what you would do or what the
I was talking about what I would do. I don't know what the Eagles think of the player. I said, if they think what I said about the Eagles, if they think the same way I think about the player, they will go after him. They will go after him. If they think he's a top 5 safety and he's available, he's got to be available too, because just because he wants out doesn't mean they're going to trade him. Then they will go after him. I've compared it to A.J. Brown. There are certain players they will erase their history with and say, well, this guy's just better than everybody else. I think he's one of those players at safety. I think. I don't know if they think that. By the way, speaking of Budda, he was out there congratulating Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, he got a thumbs up in there.
Maybe, maybe he's doing a little lobbying. Yeah, he sees potential. Super Bowl. Look, I can't fathom them going into a season, as I said, with what they have at safety right now, what they have at linebacker right now. And I had no idea the cap numbers were going to be this low. So I was on the assumption yesterday when we were talking about it that the cap numbers would be sort of, 15, 16, and then 25 or something like that. And all of a sudden, I was talking under that impression that they should make a move, that they should go after it. With this, I mean, if he's on the trading block, if he wants to come here, I think they're making a mistake if they if they say this guy's not good enough and we can make do with Reed Blankenship and Terrell Edmonds or Justin Evans or even a draft pick. Yeah, I disagree with that. This is a 3-time All-Pro player, not Pro Bowl, All-Pro player. This is a really, really good player. But you bring up, and I talk about it all the time, and you're right. He's not a traditional coverage safety. He plays all over the place. He's a good coverage guy, though. He's not typically, when you talk about box safeties, what people describe as box safeties, they don't cover very well.
Yeah, there's a reason they're in the box.
Yeah. He covers well. And his PFF numbers point that out. He's got really good coverage numbers. Like, he's a really good player. And other than Derwin James, because I think he's way more versatile than Minkah Fitzpatrick, who, Miami, for those who don't know, wanted to turn Minkah Fitzpatrick into Budda Baker, play all over the place. And he wanted no part of it. He didn't want to do it. That's one of the reasons he got traded. Great player, but, and that's what the Eagles want. Somebody who just wants to sit back there and play coverage. Boy, I have a problem if they wouldn't want that player. But I could see them not wanting that player.
You just said that's what the Eagles want. Here's where I'll give the Budda Baker fans a little bit of a leg up and maybe a little hope. When they signed Edmonds and they got him for what, $2 million, John? Just barely more than the league minimum. And he's a 4-year starter in Pittsburgh. Yeah, granted, his PFF ratings aren't great, but he was a starter on a pretty damn good defense 4 straight years. He was more of a box safety. He's more of a guy who's going to come up and help in the run game and make tackles and the like. He's not a great coverage safety. And during Jonathan Gannon's era, they wanted to cover safeties. They want both their safeties, the mirror players that can drop down and play somebody in the slot. That's what Jonathan Gannon wanted out of his safeties. And then they signed Edmonds. And I said, maybe Sean Desai is going to ask his safeties, game plan his safeties to be a little bit different, that it's not going to be the same exact defense we've seen Jonathan Gannon run the last 2 years. If I'm right about that assumption, and we won't know till they get out there on the field. Oh, by the way, the interview session that you had with Sean Desai. Oh, that's right. You haven't had that. How long ago did they hire him?
Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, still nothing.
They haven't quite made him available to the media yet here in town. But so we're all guessing. We're all poking and hoping here. We don't know anything. We've got the quotes from Nick Sirianni that say, oh, I have my defensive philosophies, and Jonathan and I were always on the same page, and I have faith that Sean and I are going to be on the same page. So he's hinted at it, that it's going to be a very similar defense, but we won't know till it gets out there on the field and we get a look at it, or we have to try and read between the lines. And the Edmonds signing might be something you could read between the lines that, hey, maybe they will be playing their safeties differently, and maybe they will get involved and make
I disagree with you from this standpoint. As you mentioned a little bit there, we're not completely blind because Nick Sirianni's gone on record a couple times. It's not going to change much. We're going to play this style of defense. So that's what the head coach wants. That's what the head coach is going to get.
All right. Now, I just want to interrupt 1 second. I'll let you finish your thought, John. Then if we've got the right scouting report on Terrell Edmonds, why would they sign the guy?
Well, they signed him for, as you mentioned, 1 year, $2 million. They signed him for $600,000 guaranteed. I mean, this guy's just as likely to be Jaquiski Tartt as a big time player on this defense. I think everybody looks at the safeties that they have, and it's like Terrell Edmonds looks like Ronnie Lott. Well, they paid him like Jaquiski Tartt. I mean, they gave him nothing. What I'm saying is, if you go trade for Budda Baker and you're giving up the 30th pick in the draft and you're signing him to a contract of $15 million a year, well, you know that guy's a big part of your stinking defense. Contracts say a lot. You know, Jalen Hurts, highest paid, but contracts tell you a lot.
Sure.
They didn't pay this guy anything. He could be the starting safety. I said this about Tartt last summer a bunch. He could be the starting safety. He could be off the team. He could be cut in a heartbeat if he doesn't show up and do what they expect or what they want him to do. So it's not like right now we look at the roster and say, well, he's got to play, right? You know, who else is going to play? Well, if somebody shows up in the draft, whether it's Brian Branch or even a second or a third round pick, or they trade for Budda Baker, all of a sudden, Terrell Edmonds is probably more likely to be cut than be on the team. So the contract tells you a lot, and the contract says, we don't have anything right now, so let's have this placeholder.
Right. And that the reason I stated the way I stated was, then don't you have isn't it obligatory that you have to at least investigate Budda Baker? When you've got a guy penciled in right now as your starting safety, who John McMullen says there's a better chance he's going to be cut than actually starting, don't you need to be looking to upgrade that position?
I didn't say better. I said there's a chance, but right now,
do me a favor, break it down for me. 100%, 60-40.
Well,
starting,
right now, 100% he'll be on the team right now on April 18th because they don't have anybody else.
Right
now, if they add Brian Branch, that number probably goes 60-40. If they add Budda Baker, it's probably under 50. It's probably underwater. So, right now, he is Ronnie Lott. They got to play him. That's why everyone makes a big deal about Terrell Edmonds. And by the way, I think he was a good player in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I think he was underrated. I can't understand why somebody else didn't give him $5 million. I think, he will start if they don't add anything at safety. But that contract tells you everything you need to know. And that's same thing with Nicholas Morrow, same thing with Justin Evans, even Rashad Penny, $600,000 guaranteed. I mean, if they get somebody in the draft that they like in camp, and it doesn't have to be even Bijan, it could be Roshan Johnson from Texas, and they say, wow, this kid can play, and they get him in the third round, or they get some, day 3 picks, and how he works that out, they get him in the 4th round, what have you, they could cut him. No skin off their back at all.
Right. They've signed a bunch of lottery tickets, and guess what? The beauty of lottery tickets, if you don't win, you throw them away and you move on and you go buy next week's lottery tickets. But sometimes lottery tickets cash, but a lot of times they end up in the trash. And some of the guys Eagles have signed, that may be the case. We'll see how it plays out. I asked Mikey Miss this, and I'm going to ask you this, and I'm going to give you my opinion. Has Jalen Hurts' contract changed and when I say changed, I mean significantly changed the way the Eagles are looking at this upcoming draft, because they got the deal done, not only got it done, but got it done in the parameters they got it done in?
No, I don't think it's changed from the draft perspective, because they're pretty disciplined with the draft. They're not going to go reach for, if they like a player, they're going to take him. Howie's learned that over the years the hard way. I think it changes the other aspects, the post-June burst cuts, if Budda Baker's made available. I think now you have to say, all right, we have this window. And that's what I asked Mike. I thought it was going to be, knew the window was going to be there for a year or two. Well, now they have a window for 3-4 years. And I keep looking at that defense, and I know offense is more important. Jeffrey Lurie said it. We can all agree. It's good offense beats good defense. I say it all the time now in the modern NFL. But you got to be representative. Remember, they weren't good enough last year, right? With 70 sacks, number 2 defense, number 1 passing defense. They weren't good enough on the biggest stage to get the stop when they needed to. I mean, first of all, I think people kind of forget it's kind of difficult to get to that position. And if you're rolling out that defense, luckily they don't have to play today. They're not getting to that position to crap the bed, because that defense isn't going to be good enough. So that part to me, there's got to be more of a sense of urgency.
Here's the only effect that I think, Jalen Hurts' contract has on the Eagles in the upcoming draft 9 days from now. Prior to Jalen's contract extension, I was probably at about a 10% chance that the Eagles were going to take Bijan Robinson at the number 10 pick. 10. That's not much. It's not 0, but it's not a great percentage either. 10. I'm up to about 20 now, John.
Ooh.
Because I think that when you make that kind of commitment like they did to Jalen Hurts, you got to kind of back it up, if not double down. And as you just said, and he's well on record saying it, Jeff Lurie believes offense rules the world. And that when the owner is on record as saying, yeah, the only way to win in the National Football League is outscore them. And yeah, the Chiefs outscored us with a late field goal that maybe there wasn't holding on the play on James Bradbury, but they were there. They were knocking on the door. They were this close to winning the Super Bowl. Well, maybe we need even more offense. Maybe if we had put up more points, that we could have actually held on and won the Super Bowl. If Jeff Lurie and the owner has a little influence on that number 10 draft pick, maybe it is Bijan Robinson. I've been saying all along, highly unlikely, I'm saying more likely now. Not a given, but more likely because they've committed so much to the offense, doubling down and giving Jalen Hurts, protecting Jalen Hurts by getting him a better back might be something they think about.
Yeah, I'm all on board with my counterintuitive notion that he makes the running backs better, not vice versa. And I don't think you need to spend that capital, especially with Jalen Hurts playing quarterback. If you want to go the offensive route, then I would go more towards offensive line, and obviously that would be more important for the quarterback to protect the quarterback and all that kind of stuff. So then you start talking about, well, is Paris Johnson going to fall? Probably not. But you start doing the math, Jody. 4 quarterbacks go. Starting to think maybe Will Levis doesn't, but let's pretend he does. 4 quarterbacks go. Carter's not there. Anderson's not there. Texas Tech kid, I always forget his name. Wilson's not there. That's 7. You have Skoronski, you have Paris Johnson. That gets you to 9. Am I missing somebody? Bijan, he's probably not going to be top 10. Who am I missing? Corner, Christian Gonzalez. All of a sudden, you get that one guy in that top 10. You got the 4 quarterbacks, Gonzalez, the 3 linemen. You're getting one of the offensive linemen at 10. I think that would be more likely for the Eagles.
Understood. But again, following in the Eagles' history, and the most specific history since their miracle working offensive line coach, Lane Johnson was a first-round pick. But Kelsey was what, 6th?
6th.
Mailata was 7th. Sayamalu was 3rd or 4th? 3rd round pick.
Yeah.
All right. So they've gotten their offensive lineman. Lane was Lane. Was Lane picked before Stoutland University was opened?
He was Chip Kelly, so Stout came with Kelly. So no, he was first year.
Okay. Right. So the Eagles.
By the way, and by the way, remember that was the Deion Jordan year. So the Eagles lucked out. I think it was Miami that traded above the Eagles because everybody knew Chip was going to take Deion Jordan from Oregon. So thank Miami for that one.
Thank you very much, Dolphins. And Dickerson was 2nd round pick. So they've been able to do their offensive line, is phenomenal offensive line, best offensive line in football, without investing first-round draft picks. Lane was the only one out of the 5. So I don't know that they're going to use the 10th pick in the draft. Last time they did was Lane Johnson. They did well, so you can say if they get Lane again, they double down on that immediately, Jody.
I do think, my lot is unique. I mean, that's a first-round talent. We all know why from a physical perspective. And Jep deserves all the credit in the world for building him up from nothing. But that's a first-round. Like if he grew up in America and was 6'8" and that size and that strong with that athleticism, and he played high school football and college football, he would have been a first-round pick. But obviously, it was what it was. So I kind of put him off to the side. Dickerson would have been a first-round pick if he didn't tear his ACL. That's a first-round talent. And by the way, he tore his ACL I think it was the SEC championship game. So he tore his ACL late coming into the draft, and they still picked him very early in the 2nd round. They had an early pick that year. That's a first-round talent. There's this now Kelsey, obviously, and that's Howard Mudd too, by the way. Unbelievable player, 6th-round pick. That never happens. Good on them. Certainly, Jep has a big thing, and he does more with players like Halapuli Bati and Matt Pryor and Nate Herbig than probably anybody else. But those guys aren't Lane Johnson. Those guys aren't Jordan Mailata. Those guys aren't Lane Dickerson. He gets tremendous value out of them. But I think this narrative that, oh, you can take a so-and-so in the 6th, 7th round and he'll develop that's even Isaac as a 3rd-round pick turned into a really good player, but it took a while. He got benched for Stefan Wisniewski. He struggled. He was depressed at one point. He was, upset. And all of a sudden he turns the corner. It helps if you get a talent like Paris Johnson with Jeff Stoutland, then I feel really good.
Yeah, I think there's more evidence that a highly drafted running back has got a chance to reach the top of the mountain than a highly drafted offensive line. There are more offensive linemen that are day 2 and day 3 picks rather than first-round pick. Last year, the 4 best running backs in the NFL were all first-round picks. So the narrative, I think, is more off base. You can take a running back at any round in the draft than it is you can take an offensive lineman in any round in the draft. I actually think it is easier to take a lineman and develop him than it is a running back. If you got the talent, you got the talent. That's why you go in the first round. The Isaiah Pacheco's of the world are few and far between. They're most recent in our memory because they just kind of did it to the Eagles in the Super Bowl this year. But that 7th round superstar running back is...
I don't know. Look at that Donnell Pumphrey draft, man. That draft was really deep at running back. Really, really deep. And the Eagles just made the wrong pick, man. They made the wrong pick.
Subscribing to the theory that you can find a star running back late in the draft, and they got themselves Donnell Pumphrey. So that kind of makes my point for me. All right, Johnny Mac, Jody Mac, here with you on Birds 365. We are banking on Brad Spielberger from both Pro Football Focus and OverTheCap.com, jumping on with us to discuss the Jalen Hurts contract. Spielberger next here on Birds 365.